Hi, this is Dominic Keating. I played Lieutenant Malcolm Reed on Enterprise. Hi, this is Dominic Keating. I played Lieutenant Malcolm Reed on Enterprise, as you probably know. And you are listening to the NX 7062 podcast. Enjoy.
Yes, everybody, you are listening to the NX 7062 podcast /videocast / welcome to the show. Oh, look at you already joining us. Look. There we go. He's joining us already. My favorite co-host / producer. It's Podcat. Say hello. Welcome to the second show of the season. So totally glad that you're here. I'm not sure, I'm still kind of getting used to this whole video thing. I'm still getting used to this video thing as far as kind of, I actually have to put makeup on now to do this. And I have to, kind of check, see my outfit's okay, find a good background. I'm loving it, but it's taking a lot to get used to. See, you have fans out there, Podcat. Yes, you do. But I'm loving it because this is just so much more fun. I feel like it's so much more interactive, and I get to do things like scroll banners and, play with stuff. So, I think we're just going to keep doing this whole thing on YouTube. Eventually I will figure out, and I promise I'm still going to upload some stuff to Spreaker. So anybody that wants to listen in their car or whatever it is that they want to do that they can't watch, you'll still be able to hear it. So tonight's topic is season 3 of the podcast. What's coming? Maybe you guys have some suggestions for what you'd like to see. I am always open to suggestions. I am here for you. This is a fan run kind of thing. I'm always anxious to hear what you guys have to say. But before we get started, a couple things. Today is the 33rd anniversary of Star Trek: The Next Generation. That's right. Encounter at Farpoint and aired on this date 33 freaking years ago. And I remember I was there. I watched it. Hi, Robert. Glad to see you were able to make it on time. So you'll get to see the entire show. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. 33 years. Time flies when you're having fun. And actually the 30th anniversary of TNG was my first Star Trek Las Vegas convention. Got the shirt to prove it. Was going to wear it tonight, but it's white. And if there's one thing I have learned in my life is that I should never own a white shirt because I will spill coffee, I will spill wine, I will spill something on it. So the shirt was not fit for public viewing. It's a night shirt now, but I do actually have the 30th anniversary t-shirt. That was Creation's mistake. Every year, if there's always a convention shirt for STLV. Creation always comes out with a shirt. So when it's the 30th anniversary of TNG, of course, it was a TNG themed shirt, but it was white. And I remember I worked the merchandise table that year for a while, and everybody kept asking, where's the shirt? The convention starts on a Wednesday, and I don't think we had the shirts till Thursday or Friday. And then they sold out in like 5 seconds. I just waited. I got mine in Jersey for $10 a couple months later. But so this is the anniversary of TNG is today. Something else that I literally just noticed online when I was checking some stuff out before I jumped on here to hang out with you all is that there is now a hashtag Trek the Vote. So some of our Star Trek favorites, including Gates McFadden and John Billingsley, have some messages for you about go out, register, and vote, and how important this election is to pretty much everybody in the country. So if you just, after the show, don't go anywhere just yet, but when we're all done here, head over to Twitter and check out hashtag Trek the Vote. Alyssa Milano actually is the one that posted it, which I thought was pretty freaking awesome, but check it out. Support, vote your conscience. This is not a political show. I would never tell anybody how to vote. Everybody has, but it's just such an important year to be voting. So make sure you educate yourself on the mostly the local. I think pretty much everybody knows what's going on mostly on the national stage, but local elections are important too. In fact, I think here in Jersey, I think legalized recreational marijuana is on the ballot. So, you never know what kind of interesting stuff your state and local elections are going to be asking you to vote on. So make sure you educate yourself and go out and trek the vote, baby. So that takes care of like the housekeeping stuff. So we're just gonna kind of kick back and chat. I got my domestic, I got Robert, I got Podcat. One of my other cats actually just joined the conversation. So this year, it's funny. I actually put out a survey, I don't know, a month or so ago on social media. And listen, I personally was taking a break from social media off and on for the summer, just kind of trying to center myself a lot over these last few months. But I don't know how many people saw it, didn't see it, couldn't, whatever. Social media sucks in a way when you're a business, especially when you're trying to get certain things out. The organic sharing isn't that great. So if you missed it, I'm sorry you missed it, but you guys are here. You can talk to me now. Just kind of like, what did you like about last year's show? What didn't you like? What would you like to see more of, less of? That kind of thing. Obviously, celebrity guests are big for me. I love having the company, whether it's an actual Trek celebrity, somebody that's been on one of the shows or contributed to some of the shows or just, other people that love Trek. Some of my friends, Lambda Quadrant, as you all know, is something I'm personally involved in and something obviously that I support. We are a fantastic, if I do say so myself, nonprofit. And so Lambda Quadrant, other Lambda Quadrant folks are going to be on here. We're definitely going to be supporting anything that they do. Domestic knows this. Every other Friday, Lambda Quadrant has game night, which is so much fun. Whenever I can make it, sometimes I actually have to work on Fridays nights, so I don't always make it. But when I can be there, I love to be there. I never heard, thanks, Domestic. I never heard of Jackbox until I started working with Lambda Quadrant, but it's this great online game. I don't know how to describe it. It's basically, Domestic, my ego is going to get too big to fill this screen. Thank you so much. I love that you love that. What I don't know about is Jackbox, which is why I'm trying to explain it. But it's just this really fun interactive game, puzzle games and word games. We played last Friday, and we did this rap battle, which I thought I did pretty good in. But it's game night. It's every other Friday. So the next one's going to be on Friday the 9th, and I'll definitely share details on my Monday show leading up to that. But it is so, so, so much fun. You can check Lambda Quadrant out at lambdaquadrant.com. They're Lambda Quadrant all over the socials, and we post about that a lot too. But it's so much fun because Jackbox is not Star Trek. Jackbox is just these puzzle games like Mad Libs and things. But we make it as Trek related as we possibly can whenever there's a fill in the blank. And if you happen to be a Sub Rosa fan, I need to sit down and rewatch that episode. Speaking of TNG's anniversary, Sub Rosa is the TNG episode where Beverly ends up hooking up, which is the polite way of saying has sex with a candle ghost. And a couple of the Lambda Quadrant folks are huge fans of that episode for various reasons. And I was actually the first person this past week that got to bring up Ronan the candle ghost. Anyway, so I highly encourage you, if you are a fan of Trek and just a fan of fun and kicking back and laughing about Trek, then you're going to have to join us on one of our game nights. Like I said, I'm there. I guess that's actually going to be one of the things that I'm going to be trying to do is I'm going to try and be branching out. So yes, here I am Monday nights. You will find me live 10 o'clock East Monday nights hanging out here with you guys. But the other thing that I'm going to shoot for, honestly, is working with other podcasts and other organizations and kind of, just kind of out having fun. Like I said, I've been working with Ryan, who was my guest last week, and The Seventh Rule and Falling Tower, which is another podcast that he does. Ryan's everywhere. The Seventh Rule is his podcast with Soraks Lofton, and it's a great podcast. And it really surprised me. I just really felt like I was getting a lot of support from other Star Trek podcasts. I follow them on Twitter. They follow me back. I post something, I share whatever they're doing, I share it. But Ryan said last week something. He said last week, which I found was interesting, is that it gets competitive, which I thought was really ridiculous because you could have 100 different Trek-based podcasts, and they would all have 100 different things to say. There's that much Trek to talk about. Like I said, I've always felt like I'm here for you guys. I try to make this as an interactive experience as possible, which is one of the reasons I like to be live. So you guys can ask questions. You can get them answered in real time. When I have celebrity guests, I always like to have the fact that you guys can ask them questions in real time. One of the reasons I started, instead of doing this as my first podcast, as you all know, I was there. Okay, here's my story about when am I going to be a guest on the Seventh Rule, which sort of kind of rolls into what I was just about to say, Robert. So your timing's perfect. I started with Shadows of STLV last week to open the show because last year I opened the second season with my interviews from STLV. Obviously did not happen in August this year. We're still hoping it's going to happen in December. And I had all these interviews from STLV with Connor and Dominic and JG and Bob and Nicole DeBoer. And here, this is where it all ties in, Robert. And Aaron Eisenberg, may he rest in peace, who, for those of you that don't know, first of all, the audio got completely foobarred and I could have cried because it was such a great interview. But I talked to Aaron last year, and we of course we ended up talking about Enterprise, and of course, and Aaron actually is the one that invited me to guest on the Seventh Rule. He said he would love it. What he said was, when we start doing Enterprise, we'll definitely have to have you on. But they haven't even finished with DS9 yet. So my invitation, which I did tell Ryan, I said, Aaron told me I could be on it when you guys start doing Enterprise, but we don't know when that's going to be. So Ryan actually had me on his other podcast, Falling Tower, because they do this feature called Watch the First, which is WTF for short. And they watch the first episodes of a bunch of different sci-fi fantasy shows. And when they did Broken Bow, I was a guest on that. So I will be putting up a link for that if you guys haven't seen it. But it's me and Ryan Husk and two other co-hosts, and the four of us sit down and review Broken Bow. So I got to do that. I'm hoping to be on the Seventh Rule sometime very soon. And as far as virtual TrekCon, in case you missed it, the big announcement that I wasn't allowed to talk about last week was that there will be virtual TrekCon 2. And it's happening in a couple weeks. It's October 15th through the 19th. Lambda Quadrant is going to have some panels. We're working out the details on that. But the coolest thing, Lambda Quadrant's cool and all that, but the coolest thing is, I don't know if any of you guys were around, Robert, I'm pretty sure you were around, but last year, I had Eric Pierpoint on the podcast to talk about alienation and to talk about his various roles through the Trek universe. And I had started talking to Ryan about who he was going to have on virtual TrekCon 2. He and I were talking about this a few weeks ago when we were talking about Lambda Quadrant. And Ryan is actually friends with Gary Graham. And I said, well, you getting Gary? I was like, I still have Eric's contact information. Let me see. And Eric being wonderful and amazing and gracious, and Gary basically not doing anything because he's hanging out in Maui, said, sure, let's do an Alien Nation reunion. So one of the panels we actually had to pre-record it because, like I said, Gary's in Maui, so it was just easier to pre-record it. One of the panels for Virtual TrekCon is going to be an Alien Nation reunion, and the panel is hosted by Ryan and Sorak and myself. So that is what I couldn't talk about last week, but I can talk about it now, and I am so excited. It's I don't want to say intense. It was a really fun talk and chat, but what you're going to realize when you sit down and watch it, and if you watch Alien Nation at all, if you've ever watched it, it holds a mirror up to bigotry and racism and acceptance. And it did it for the times back in the 80s, and unfortunately we haven't come that far. It's doing it again, and it was just incredible. Alienation is actually the very first digital purchase that I've never purchased an entire series digitally. I'll purchase an episode here and there, but I purchased the entire season. I can't believe it was only one season. I purchased Alienation, and I sat down and I watched. I was up to like 11 or 12 into it by the 12th episode or something by the time I sat down and was able to talk to them, which is great. I saw them all in their first run, but I kind of wanted to refresh my memory before I sat down with Eric and Gary, and they are both so much fun. Eric's great. Gary I've met a couple times at STLV, so I kind of had to refresh his memory about that. But I don't want to spoil anything because I want y'all to go to Virtual TrekCon. It is completely free. Virtual TrekCon has their own Twitter feed, but you can also find all that information through the 7th Rules information, virtualtrekcon.com. Head on over there, check it out for the schedule when they finally do post it. Their guest list is just like Domestic said. It was big last time. It's going to be big this time. We're still working on a couple people. Ryan's asked for my help since I know some people who know some people that he doesn't know. So we're trying to work on beefing up the guest list, and I'm hoping to maybe have some more news to report in the coming weeks. So Domestic likes the guest. Robert, I know you like the guest because I bring you JG when I can. So we all know Robert likes the guests. Don't know if that's going to happen again in the future. Any of my guests, I absolutely, the door is always open to them. Sorak is definitely on the guest list. I've already confirmed that. Probably going to be November at this point. I'm looking at Soraks for November, so get your questions ready for Jake Sisko, because he's doing obviously so much with getting the to get ready for Virtual TrekCon that I don't want him to try and schedule a live podcast in the middle of all that. Robert, what are the media channels for Virtual TrekCon? They have a Facebook page and they have a website, so you can definitely check them out on Facebook as well. And they also, if you want to catch, let me think, the past panels are on the 7th Rules YouTube channel and Falling Towers YouTube channel have the panels, I believe. I don't think Virtual TrekCon. I don't think the Virtual TrekCon has its own YouTube channel. They were splitting it between the other channels. Well, that's Domestic. That is so good to hear. Because like I said, I have never heard a bad word. Nobody's ever come to me and said a bad word. And, like I said, there's just so much to cover. I try not to step on anybody's toes. I have to admit, when I started podcasting, this was not the initial incarnation. This is the 3rd incarnation of me doing a podcast. The first and second ones were just very broad, geek-based podcasts. And I just kind of narrowed it down. And then when I started getting back into Star Trek back in 2016, and I'm not going to bore y'all with that story again, but when I got back into Star Trek in 2016, I was already doing podcasts. And as I got more involved in Star Trek, I thought, well, I'd love to do a Star Trek themed podcast. And then I started researching exactly what was out there as far as, Star Trek podcasts, because I didn't want to step on toes and I didn't want to repeat anything. And I kind of am very scattered with my knowledge. I mean, obviously, the more I watch Enterprise, the more I'm more Enterprise focused. So my knowledge of the other shows isn't that specific. And I'm not a Voyager fan, as you all know. So I don't watch. So I can't really comment on Voyager. Whenever I need to do Voyager, I actually bring other people on to talk about Voyager for me. But so I just decided that what was missing kind of in the podcasting world was more of a con feel where there's just different topics, like different panels. When you go to STLV, you get the program for STLV, and it's just like there's so many panels covering so many things. They have 3 panel rooms. they have so many panel, just so many different panels, and that I just figured, if we set something up to do panel like things and discussions and have guests, that was something that nobody else was really doing. So I thought that would be like a really kind of fun way to do it. All right. And this was funny. This is funny. And anybody that has not yet seen Sorak do the podcast, in fact, we were actually having this conversation because when we were trying to tape the virtual TrekCon thing, things behind the scenes stuff. Here we go. When we were trying to get set up, it wasn't Soraks Internet that was having the problem. Actually, it was Gary in Maui trying to figure out where the best place. A friend of his is lending him a house, so it was more about him finding the perfect Wi-Fi spot in the house. But Soraks was actually pretty solid that day. For those of you that have ever watched The Seventh Rule, or if you ever do watch The Seventh Rule, Sorak does not have the best internet. And I guess the joke is, as long as the ceiling fan behind him is going, then you know that he's still live. If the ceiling fan stops spinning, then you know that Sorak is having an issue. Garrett. I do like Garrett Wang. I like him a lot. He's actually somebody else that I talked to in 2016. I'm trying to think if there's a good Garrett story. I actually did tell him, I saw his panel. I actually did tell him that if he ever decided to get out of the acting thing, that he should consider stand-up, because when he's on stage, he's just really on. He's really funny. I do really enjoy him a lot when I see him. And I've talked to him a couple times, hung out with him very briefly after STLV in 2019. We were all chilling out by the pool, and he happened to. It was a pool party. There's a guy, JC from England, that hosts the before and after pool parties at STLV every year, and he does I was at his post party, and he invited Garrett, and Garrett actually came and hung out with us. This is interesting. I don't know anything about this. Haven't heard anything about that. I don't know what Garrett could or would have, should have said. I don't know anything about that. That's kind of interesting, though, that you bring that up. Might have to do a little Googling when we get done tonight and see what that's all about. But Garrett, I might be able to swing that. No promises, but it's one of those things when you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and that's kind of where I'm at with Garrett. So if I can get you Garrett, I could. I am going to try to have a very special Halloween episode. I can't guarantee ideally it would be the 25th, which is the Monday before Halloween. But it's going to depend on people's schedules. I can't say anything now, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm hoping to have a very special Halloween episode coming up. So when I can announce that, I absolutely will. Let's see what else. But this is what I'm here for. I am here for you guys. I love the fact that you guys are talking to me. I don't feel alone. Like I said, I'm going to try and have more of my friends. I'd love to have Ryan come back on, but like I said, with Virtual TrekCon, it's probably going to have to wait until after Virtual TrekCon. I will keep you all updated on Virtual TrekCon. If I have any more fun behind the scenes stuff to share, I absolutely will. Every now and then I do pop in on the Seventh Rules YouTube again, because I believe in supporting the other podcasts. So I do pop in on the Seventh Rule when I can. Sometimes I'm not available. Sometimes I'm at work and I'll still my job will let me kind of sneak in. So if I have my tablet with me, I might pop in on that. And let's see who else. Do you guys have any dream celebrities that you like? I have to admit I'm limited. Obviously, you all know my dream guest would probably be Dominic Keating. I've already had Connor on, so I would love to see if I could get Dominic to do something. Again, that's friends of friends of friends, so I don't know if that would ever happen, but I would definitely love to kind of shoot for Dominic and have him on here. We could talk about Enterprise. We could talk about some of he's got some really great projects. In fact, every Halloween, I think I've mentioned this before, every Halloween I like to watch his movie Hollywood Kills. It's this really awful B horror movie, but he was really good in it. So I would love to have Dominic on. I'd love to have, and I've been trying for Anthony. I actually have talked to Anthony a couple times, but I think Anthony wants to wait. Anthony has some really amazing projects. I don't know where they are now because of COVID. I don't know where he stands on finalizing things. And I know he said that he'd come on once he was ready to kind of announce. I wasn't kidding with Ryan, and Ryan is going to hopefully try and get me Gary. So I'm kind of having guests. I'm shooting for, I like to spread out my celebrity guests to once a month. So those panels would be once a month. And as you know, I always like to, that also gives me time to like, let you guys ask your questions, because I mean, the worst is when this is the worst thing at a convention. Cause this happened with me and William Shatner. He was in Jersey again, 2016. And I didn't think of a question for him until his line, I'm like, it was like, hey, he was halfway through. I got up and I stood in line, and there was no way in hell, because when William Shatner answers a question, he answers a question. And so you don't get that many questions with William Shatner, because he's very thorough in his answers. So he takes up a lot of time just answering a few questions. And that's one of the worst things, is that you don't think of your question until they're just about ready to say goodbye. And you miss your opportunity. And there's nothing worse than being on that line, especially if they're just about to hand you the mic and it's like, oh, sorry, gotta go. So that's why I like to space out the celebrity guests. And that's why I like to try and get them locked down into dates that are far enough in the future, so that you guys have your chance to give me questions before they're even here. Especially if you can't make it, especially, if you're on the other side of the pond or somewhere where you can't make it, but you want to give me a question, I'll get it in. And that way you can watch the tape and you can find out if you got your question answered, which is, like I said, and which is what I'm planning to do. If STLV happens, I will be going. So there will be an STLV episode of the podcast in December, if it happens. And you guys, as always, so think of your questions. If you've got questions for JG or Bob or anybody else, the thing of it is obviously, depending on where Vegas stands, depending on how comfortable the celebrities are, I have to be perfectly honest, and this is totally my personal opinion, opinions expressed here are mine and mine alone. It's probably going to come down to health concern versus pocketbooks, because obviously 5 days worth of Star Trek, can help your bank account, especially if it's been depleted, because LA really hasn't picked up much on filming. Toronto's starting up again. New York has started up again, but LA really hasn't done much. And even so, it's still, very minimal. So I think it's going to be about the actor's comfort level of being, at the convention, along with, where they are financially, whether it just makes more sense for them to go to do it. So that being said, I'm going. If it happens, I will be going. And if your celebrities are there, I will be more than happy to try and get the questions, just like I did last year. So we'll definitely be having an STLV in December. If it gets canceled, maybe I will look into getting some celebrities themselves to come do the podcast. But again, I can't make any promises, but as always, when I get them, I will announce them as soon as I can, so that you guys can all, ask your questions. Or if you want to ask them live, give yourself a chance to think about them before you get on the show. Because like I said, there's nothing worse than waiting and having your question and then not getting an answer because you waited too long to have it pop into your head. So next week, there's one thing I think that all the Star Trek podcast, or at least touching on in some way, and that would be Lower Decks. I am a huge fan of Lower Decks. So I think next week we're going to do the lowdown on Lower Decks. So if you guys are fans, I hope you'll come in. If you guys aren't fans, if you haven't seen it, CBS All Access, I get it. It's pay. So I get it if you haven't seen it yet. Then the warning is that there will be spoilers. So we're going to talk about Lower Decks. I would love to have you guys, but if you bow out because you don't want it to be spoiled because you haven't seen it, I completely respect that. Yes, Robert, this is true. There is no cruise in 2021. It is in 2022 with the same guest list. They confirmed everybody that was set to sail in 2021 will be sailing in 2022, which means that Enterprise's anniversary is going to be celebrated a year later. Because for those of you that don't know, next year is Enterprise's 20th anniversary. It aired in 2001. Early September of 2001 was Broken Bow. So far they've got Anthony Montgomery, Connor Trinneer, and John Billingsley. They are missing 2 out of the 5 actors that still do convention appearances, and I swear to God, it obviously this is the most Enterprise people they've had on one cruise. They were obviously planning on celebrating the anniversary, so you can't tell me that they're not at least talking to Linda Park and Dominic Keating, because how can you have an anniversary cruise without the 2 of them? I went in 2019. Actually, I went on the cruise in 2019 and sang karaoke twice with Connor Trinneer. It was amazing. The cruise was absolutely deliciously amazing. If you can afford it, I highly, highly recommend it. Domestic, to answer this question, no, I have not. I have actually met some of the women at Warp. It's one of the Roddenberry podcasts. That's actually kind of my dream, is to become part of the Roddenberry network. Don't know if that'll happen, but that's kind of my dream. But yes, I do recommend the cruise if you can afford it. It's a little pricey, but they do actually set up payment plans for you. So they do try and make it as accessible as they can. It's freaking amazing. It's freaking amazing. And since you asked, I remember I went with some friends, and we were all just kind of sitting in the buffet room after, between meals, which basically meant ice cream. We were having ice cream. And we're just sitting there, and these 2 people walked past us, and one of my friends in the group recognized the girl and said, Jackie, and Jackie turned around, and then it took me a half a second to realize that the other person with Jackie was Connor. So I was like, Connor. So I got to chat with Connor Trinneer just very casually. It was the beard. The beard always throws me off. But that's what was awesome about it. I mean, Nana Visitor I went to Nana's cooking demonstration, which was amazing. I chatted with Casey Biggs a few times, actually talked him into singing karaoke one night. Talked to Jason Isaacs. Jonathan Frakes and I have never connected, and we're both Penn State grads. And I tried to talk to him about Penn State's bowl game, and he just didn't want to talk. Sorry, Jonathan, I still love you. You were still my first Star Trek crush, but talked to Mary Chiefo. Mary Chiefo got up and sang karaoke when I sang karaoke the first night. Denise Crosby was in the audience singing right along with me. Yeah, the cruise is definitely, they call it the unconventional voyage because it really is very different than a convention, because you're all, it's amazing. What else can I tell you about the cruise that I loved? The one thing I absolutely loved about this is another funny story about the cruise. So you could pick, you got tickets. Oh, that's awesome. That is so great. You're going to have the most awesome time. If I don't get to go in 2022, I'm going to be so jealous. But the one thing that you should check out, they do a celebrity excursions, which are a little pricier than the regular excursions, obviously. But they do celebrity excursions. So this is what's really funny is that my friends and I, we wanted to do swimming with the stingrays. And you had a choice. You could either do just the regular excursion, go swim with the stingrays for one price, or for about $20 more, you could go swim with the stingrays with Chase Masterson. Well, no offense, I adore Chase, but I also know Chase, so I didn't need to spend an extra $20 to go hang out with Chase. Save that for other people. So we just all decided that we would just do the regular swimming with the stingrays. And who the heck decides that he wants to go swimming with the stingrays? Michael Dorn. So I technically got a celebrity excursion without paying for it. And it was somebody that I never hung out with, I never talked to, which is Michael Dorn. So that was kind of cool. So you definitely should do. And now I'm not saying that happens all the time. That was just a really freaky, cool coincidence. If you really want to hang out with a celebrity, they do celebrity excursions as well as regular excursions. The drink packages aren't really that much of a deal unless everybody in your cabin is a heavy drinker. So I will tell you that. Save your money for other things. I did a la carte beverages for myself, and it just worked. It worked out so much better because soda and juice and stuff and coffee, I mean, that you can get all the time. And I am not a huge drinker. So don't fall prey to thinking that the drink packages are that great a deal, because they're really not. But yeah, I'm jealous already because I don't have tickets for the cruise yet, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to go. Yeah, but if you go, have an awesome time. You're going to go on the one cruise that I really wanted to go on, which is the Enterprise cruise, but that's okay. It's amazing. And jealous. So tune in, join me next week, because next week is going to be all about, what did I say? Lower Decks. That's right. It's the lowdown on Lower Decks next week, live, 10 East. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always love it, chatting with all of my regulars, and, just, keep looking out for me on social media. Go visit the Seventh Rule. Go visit Lambda Quadrant. There's just so many amazing things that you can be supporting right now. And don't forget to hashtag Trek the Vote. Until next week, everybody, live long and prosper.
Hey, this is Connor Turner. You've been listening to the NX7062 podcast with Stephanie. Enjoy your evening.